Hello there, I'm Gloria Makarenko. Well, on this holiday long weekend, we are thankful for the beauty of our city and all the people in it. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, food tastes better when you share it. And if only we had the brains to make scarecrows like these. But first, women helping women find meaningful work. Now, this weekend, you may be thinking about what you're thankful for. Maybe it's friends or family or good health, or maybe meaningful work. You know, during the pandemic, 2.8 million Canadian women either lost their jobs or had their hours drastically reduced. So some of them are seeking help and getting things like counseling or coaching or even much needed clothing for job interviews. Well, with us today are Amy Robichaud, the Executive Director of Dress for Success, and Silvia Ivanov. Silvia has been a client and is a recipient of this year's Inspiration Award, and that award is going to be given out at an upcoming luncheon here in Vancouver. Amy, Silvia, welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It is so great to have you here. So Silvia, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got connected with Dress for Success.
I immigrated from Brazil to Canada in 2017. It was an opportunity for my husband to study and start a new career.
Okay, so you got here and you're saying, where do I start? What do I do? I need some supports. And?
Exactly. It was hard in the beginning to make connections. So I first started to looking for an employment program because I was looking for connections, looking for work. And one organization put me in contact with Dress for Success.
I see. So, Amy, why don't you pick it up from there? How typical is Silvia's story?
I mean, Silvia's story is unique because every client we have is unique and amazing, but it's not unusual. It's difficult to find work if you're new to Canada and you've never had a job here before. Just walking over, Silvia and I were talking about the dreaded, so what Canadian experience do you have question? And so when clients find us, their confidence has been beaten down, they've had trouble finding work, they've had trouble making connections, building community, and we offer a suite of programs, including our dressing services, that help with all of that.
I see. So what was it like? First time you went in to sort of check out some of the clothes that would make you interview ready?
Yeah, it made me feel more confident. But what came after that is much more than outfit. It brought me more confident to the workplace, and also all the support and the networking and the connections. And the most important to me was bring me to the community. Everything that happened in Dress for Success just made me proud to be part of it. And I decided to also give it back. So.
Well, that sounds like a win-win.
It absolutely is. And that's the piece that I feel so privileged getting to do this job and serve at Dress for Success, is that what really sets us apart from other women's programs or employment agencies is that we stick with our clients so they can come full circle. It's not about just finding a job. It's about finding success and whatever the personal definition of that is. So that starts with interview close, that can lead to access to clinical counseling, access to mentorship and coaching, professional development programs, help writing CVs or writing the next CV, and also help getting that next promotion or that first promotion, which you just got, by the way.
I just got one promotion, yes.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. All the workshops that I attended for Dress for Success support me to advance in my career for sure.
I love that. I love that full circle description as well. How does that make you feel, Amy?
Oh my goodness, so full every day. The easiest way to, I think, show up and lead in the world is to serve others and help them show up and lead. And I get to do that every single day with an amazing team of staff and literally hundreds of volunteers. Like, we are small and scrappy in that way, and that, you know, the mentors that worked with Silvia were volunteers. Our staff helped organize the programs. The hosts of our workshops are volunteers, and it's all women and men in the local community showing up for each other and making an investment in women who, for whatever reason, have had trouble getting into the economy or starting to make those financial connections that they need to make. In fact, our return on investment for like every charitable dollar spent is over 11,000%, consider the wages that the women who come through our program end up earning.
Wow.
So, you know, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good from a business case. I feel, you know,
Yeah.
it's joyful. It's joyful getting to do this work.
It is.
And Amy, how big is the need for services like this right now?
Oh my goodness. So, you know, the pandemic set women in the workforce back by about 4 decades. So if we think about that, that's really bad for women. That's also really bad for the economy that we're in right now. We talk about needing a strong, resilient, growing economy. Well, everybody's got to be able to participate in that. We can't leave talent on the table. And so we are having more clients come to us. They're starting to come to us sooner, so even before they're really ready for that first job, but to help get that confidence or figure out how to even start looking. And they're staying with us longer. They're staying with us through to, I want to get that first promotion, or it's taking longer to get fully into where they need to be. And I say that genuinely, and this can sound cliche, but the need has never been more important from a global perspective, from a perspective of our local economy, but also just in the numbers of women we're seeing reach out and ask for help.
Yeah, and you make a very good point about the impact of the pandemic. Just how long is that going to take us to recover from this? But you are definitely a success story, Silvia, and you're going to be recognized for that. So with Silvia now being a master of the program, what does that actually mean?
So Silvia's an ambassador.
Ambassador.
Yeah, so every year we bring in a few ambassadors who are alumna of our programs, who come and give back to us as they volunteer their time to share their stories. But we also get to keep working with our ambassadors with one-on-one mentorship. And the thing that I love, and you should talk about this, but the thing that I love about the work we do is that if you walk into our space or you walk into one of our events, you're going to be hard-pressed to tell unless you tell somebody who's staff, who's volunteer, who's a client.
And what does that mean for you, Silvia?
Oh my God. It's hard to put in words because it's a magical place. You, as Amy said, you don't know who is who because everybody just embrace you, treat you with lots of respect. And well,
Wow.
it's an honor to be part of it.
Well, it's wonderful to have you both with us today. I know you'll both be at the luncheon, in your honor as well, coming up next month. So thank you so much for coming in.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Malka.
Hello, I am Shiv, and this is
Our Vancouver.
All right, it's time for one of our favorite features. This is where we get to showcase some of the photographs that you send in. Look at those pumpkins. We'll start here. This is a field on Finslow Road in Richmond. They look ready for the season, that's for sure. Thank you to Richard Topping for that image. And this next one is unique. This is the reflection of clouds and trees in the water of a pond in Burnaby's Central Park. That looks almost like a painting, doesn't it? Serbi Kedia sent in that one. Thank you. And finally, hello, sunshine. Minto Greywall took this one morning this week in North Vancouver. So lovely to see the sunrise, especially this time of year. And do send us more if you're out with your cameras. Just send in your favorite shots to us by email, bcphotos@cbc.ca. bcphotos@cbc.ca. Now, you are about to get a rare glimpse into the mysteries deep beneath the surface of a sleeping giant north of Whistler. Laura Lynch, the host of CBC Radio's What on Earth, takes us to Mount Meager, where a dormant volcano could hold the future of geothermal energy in Canada.
It's a geologist's pilgrimage of sorts to a place scientists explored then abandoned decades ago, nestled among the giant peaks of BC's coastal mountains.
But it's coming up through the glacier, right? It's a very Canadian volcano that is coming up through ice.
But that's steam, not smoke.
Yeah, it's steam coming from the ground, from the volcano underneath.
The secret lying deep in the fiery belly of these icy peaks. There's energy there, infinite, renewable energy. Because this is actually a volcano. The glacier, melting due to a warming planet, is revealing huge holes spewing steam and noxious gases. That's another indication that there's power, geothermal power, to be harnessed.
We're right in the crater of the last explosive volcanic eruption in Canada 2,400 years ago.
What does the fumarole tell you about the capacity of this mountain to provide geothermal energy?
I mean, what this fumarole is it's just steam coming out of the earth, right? And so this is exactly the kind of stuff you want to look for when you're looking for geothermal resources.
We're now in Squamish, a short drive from Vancouver. The small airport here serves as a gateway to BC's volcanic belt. Today is all about seeing the past, present, and future of geothermal energy in Canada. Our guide is Steve Grasby, the government geologist who's leading the push to rediscover and develop the remarkable sustainable resource. And the first stop on our tour is an encounter with the past. We're heading to Mount Meager. The region's geothermal potential was first discovered at this site more than 40 years ago, pushed forward by a need for a new energy source.
Prime Minister Clark said for the first time today there may be oil shortages in some parts of Canada this winter.
In the 1970s, the cost of gas skyrocketed due to conflict and revolution in the Middle East. People worried about filling up their tanks. Canada was worried about energy security. So Ottawa began pouring money into research on alternative energy, including geothermal. If you could tell me the story about when you first started to rediscover, for want of a better word, geothermal and the documents that you went looking for in that.
So they had boxes and boxes and boxes of all the information they had collected across the country over 10 years. And all the people involved were just found out overnight that this program is no longer running anymore. But, you know, they were passionate scientists and they just didn't want this all to vanish. So all the boxes got stuffed away in corners here and there and basements and garages and offices. And it was just a big, treasure hunt.
The hunt led Grasby here to the original pumps installed to bring the underground superheated water to the surface. It's not an impressive sight, but none of this deterred Craig Dunn and his company from investing.
I fell in love very much with the geothermal energy space because of the idea of drilling holes that, so to speak, didn't run out. So tapping into a resource that is renewable was an incredible opportunity that I took on about 15 years ago.
Geothermal isn't new. Other countries have been tapping into it for years to provide electricity and heat homes. Canada, though, is a laggard, at least until now. Dunn knows that because of climate change, there's a business case for this sustainable energy source. His company is planning to invest $250 million into the Mount Meager site by 2025.
So prior to that, even more remote than it is today, is that we didn't have road access into this site. And from a resource perspective, amazing, but from a project development perspective, very challenging. As we see those change on this project, we see that the opportunity to come back to Meager made so much sense. That's a natural fracture system. Look, if you can see it, it's not a clean cut.
Even more exciting for these two geologists, though, is a box of rocks. It's a bonding moment most of us will never quite grasp.
So we can see this is like a constant change between the different types of rock.
Translation? These samples from deep underground prove the rock is porous and fractured. The water, heated by magma from the volcano, can then travel through the rock to the surface.
We take the heat out of it, put the water back into the system, and over the course of time, it percolates through a hot rock, coming back to me as 260-degree water.
There's another man there you'll notice. It's the chief of the Liwat First Nation, Dean Nelson. And this site is on his nation's traditional land, land never settled by a treaty.
And then the whole solar facility on the backside, we wanted to do it this way, but we had to do it flat because the snow comes up to like here. So we lose about a third of the solar panels.
It's Chief Nelson's first time here ever. He's getting a glimpse of what he's only seen on paper or in photos.
Being here finally on the ground is amazing. Like to have a say in what's happening here, to see what is proposed and what can be, I guess.
But then getting all the power supply in here and hitting it charge, I don't even know, did you walk around the back?
No, I didn't yet.
Okay, so
He and his people play a crucial role in this, and Craig knows it.
You own the rights, but you don't own the land, because you need their consent to go forward.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't see consent as a need. I think of it as an opportunity. We have an opportunity here to show, how we can work with the local First Nations to develop a green energy resource and have them actively involved in that process.
Because ultimately nothing moves forward without the First Nations' blessing, more or less a requirement to avoid messy lawsuits or confrontations on the site, unlike so much other resource extraction that's been carved out of Leewat territory for generations. We met Chief Nelson in his own community to talk more about what matters to him.
I'm curious to know what people are telling you in the community about it.
What is in it for them? Like, how is it going to affect them? Like, is it negative like everything else that has happened over the years? Or, are we looking at some positive things coming from this?
Yeah, because it must be hard for people to trust.
Yes, very, very hard, because like we said, we've been on the receiving end of these things, watching industry progress through here without our participation or any kind of acknowledgement. So, and that's probably the biggest thing, is having that doubt about that we're being taken again, kind of thing.
The conversations continue between those who claim the land and those who want to profit from it. All the while, the science speeds ahead, driven by the same thirst for discovery that fueled their predecessors.
Steve, can you tell me where we are right now and why we're here?
Oh, sure. So we're standing on the flank of Mount Cayley, which is a volcano in the Garibaldi volcanic belt, it's called. And what we're looking here for is the source of heat underneath the volcano.
Why do you think there might be that geothermal heat under this mountain?
Well, I guess just being a volcano, that is a good place to start. And I think, it's partly just until you see it, it's hard to believe it.
Now on year 2 of data collection here at Cayley, the next generation of geologists has inherited the methodical patience that science demands. This time, though, amidst the world's growing quest for sustainable energy sources. The bigger picture tells the story of one critical piece of it, the hunt for the heat beneath our feet. Laura Lynch, CBC News, Mount Cayley, British Columbia.
Coming up, it is likely to rain more than snow in Canada's Arctic by the end of the century. Johanna Wagstaffe is going to explain the science after the break.
When you think of Arctic weather, you probably still think of snow and ice, maybe melting ice, but probably not rain. In the next 70 years, though, more rain than snow will fall in the far north. That's according to new research that found the frequency of rainy days in the Arctic could roughly double by 2100. The study was published in Earth's Future, and the lead author said this means the arrival of a new Arctic. In the past, rainfall was primarily limited to just the edges of the Greenland ice sheet, but rainfall is expected to continue to sort of expand inland, and that could be a catalyst for further ice loss, even the feared tipping point for its total demise. Okay, well, that's pretty scary given what that could mean for sea levels around the world. But this shift to a rainier Arctic is also expected to increase permafrost melt, releasing massive amounts of greenhouse gases, which in turn could speed up that loss of sea ice cover. It's a pretty dramatic positive feedback loop that will mean big consequences for the Arctic. In the past, the number of reindeer deaths caused by a single rain on snow event could range from several hundred to thousands because their food becomes trapped under an icy layer. Now, there have been very few studies that have looked at the frequency and intensity of Arctic rain, so little is known about how those factors will change in the near future. This research team is based out of the University of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and they used climate models to have a closer look at the rainy future of the North under a high level of greenhouse gas emissions from 2015 to 2100. They found that the increase in rain events are mainly caused by faster local warming rates. In the Arctic, that's 2 to 3 times that of the global average. They also find the onset of spring rainfall is projected to occur 3 months to a full season earlier than what's happening right now in parts of the Arctic. Ultimately, though, it's not too late. This was all done under a business as usual emission scenario, which means rapid cuts can change this future. But with the shift to more rain already happening, work like this will help focus adaptation for the part that's already locked in stone. And now you're Science Smart. If you have a science question, send me an email and I'll try to get it answered.
Now, scarecrows are scary to birds, but people love them, and the more creepy and creative, the better. Well, Arts Nursery is holding its annual Scarecrow Stroll until Halloween, and owner Rebecca van der Zam is back to tell us all about it. Rebecca, hi, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, what is it? What's the appeal of scarecrows?
Well, they're just scarecrows. They can emulate characters of so many different types. So we have, you know, the traditional scarecrow character here with her little seed family. We have Hook Fang from Train Your Dragon.
Right.
So at Arts, we have our scarecrow builders are amazing. They start building them in August, so the beginning of August. And we have some traditional ones and some that represent the latest movies. I think Hocus Pocus is at the Garden Center right now. So it's a lot of fun.
So it isn't just, you don't just put the scarecrows away for the year and then pull them out again. You freshen it up every year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's getting bigger and bigger. I think we started with maybe 20 to 30, and we're up to 60 to 80 now. And we also have included some of the local schools to do upcycled scarecrows. So they're helping to add to the event and just kind of even build more things to look at.
So what would go in an upcycled scarecrow?
Well, recycled materials.
Okay.
So they'll get a few starter things like burlap. Burlap seems to be kind of the signature for us that says it's a scarecrow.
Sure. Well, there you go. There you go. The burlap face on this one. It's just adorable. Okay. Crooked mouth and all the burlap.
That's Rosie.
Okay, that's Rosie.
So it's fun because you can actually buy scarecrow kits, which support our charities. So you get a frame like this.
Yes.
And you get a bag of your burlap head.
I see, okay.
And little, you know.
Decorate it, put any kind of face on it, okay.
Sort of things, and then you can stuff it. You can dress with your own clothes, or we can help you out there as well. And you build a scarecrow, and this is an activity, it's a take and make. So you take it home and you make it with your family. And it kind of brings the whole experience back home, and you can stick it in your garden. And it's so much fun to go through the community. You know, I'm going to the bank, and then you're like, oh, look, a scarecrow.
Right.
And it's fun, yeah.
Especially around this time of year. So can you just walk us through, if we go to Arts, like, what do we see? What's that experience like?
For sure. So one of the very popular things is picking up your scarecrow scavenger hunt. So we have fun little hints that you can walks you through the nursery to see all the various types and to find all these different scarecrows. So the kids love that. And we have a pop-up pumpkin patch that's undercovered, and it's paved, so it's easy for strollers, and it's quite mobile, which is nice. And it's just decorated with lots of beautiful pumpkins and colors, and Mother Nature has sure helped with the weather this year.
Isn't it amazing? It is amazing. Now, you also talked about these scarecrow packages for your charities. What charities? Why is this an important part of the event?
Well, it really brings it full circle. It's one of the reasons we love it is because it interacts with a segment of the population that doesn't necessarily love to garden, but it gets them outside and it gets us connecting with families in the community. And all our charities are local. So we have the Versatiles, which is a seniors acting group that helps to entertain seniors. We have OWL, which rescues raptors from and rehabilitates them. And then we have the Parklands Foundation, which just encourages people to interact with our local parks and puts out programs to try and get people involved.
There are also some birds there as well sometimes?
Oh, yes. Owl. They came last weekend with 2 birds, an owl and, I forget the other type of bird, but they're back again on the 30th. So please come out. They usually are there between 11 and 3, and so much great information. The volunteers that work with these birds are fabulous. So they have a turkey vulture as well. I don't know if they're going to bring that out for Halloween.
No, I can sense your excitement right now as you're sort of the event is happening. People are going through it. What's your favorite part of it this time of year?
I would say something you can't put your finger on. It's the buzz. And it's screaming kids coming out of the cars and people like fretting over, where they pick up their scavenger hunt piece of paper and color. I think it's just really, really vibrant at the nursery with all the different colors of the fabulous pumpkins and all the different, the creations that the staff have made. We have some amazing, talented staff that know how to paint and obviously have created and used their talents that way.
Well, thank you for bringing some of that energy into the studio with us today.
Thanks so much.
A perfect way to spend the Thanksgiving weekend and all the way to Halloween. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please come and visit us.
Don't you try to put no goodness goodbye. Take off, get gone.
If you want to go and see some live music, Jojo Mason was born in Saskatchewan but moved to Victoria to play hockey for the Saanich Junior Braves. A back injury forced him off the ice, but that's when he found his voice. Jojo brings us his brand of country tunes to the Commodore October 13th.
But there is no light that you can't live and tear it apart.
And Basia Bulat grew up in Toronto with a music teacher for a mom, and the passion for folk rubbed off. Basia brings her auto harp to the Hollywood Theatre October 14th.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music here with some sweet and twangy musical goodness for your playlist this week, courtesy of an awesome Southern Ontario singer named Johanna Wagstaffe. Check her out. There you go, like the second coming of Loretta Lynn. That is Johanna Wagstaffe, originally from Niagara, Ontario. That was a new song of hers called Lone Ranger from her brand new solo album called All Blue. It's out on October 14th. Johanna Wagstaffe ended up moving to Welland, Ontario, which is the same hometown as, trivia fans, the acclaimed hard-touring country roots rocker Daniel Romano. Romano asked Johanna to sing harmonies in his band, Daniel Romano and the Outfit, and soon Johanna was taking leads in that band as well.
On that never
Nice. That is Juliana Riolino singing lead on The Motions in Daniel Romano and the Outfit, which is currently touring North America. And as I mentioned, Juliana Riolino's new solo album is out this month, and if you dig Dolly Parton or the Detroit Cobras or the Sadies, you've got to check out this record. I'm loving it. Riolino is a passionate singer. She goes for it on every track with grit and feeling and a nice Canadian accent. Check out this barn burner called You. One of my favorite songs of the year, that's Juliana Riolino with You from her fabulous new album, All Blue, which is out very soon. Watch for Juliana on tour with Daniel Romano and the Outfit now. And You by Juliana Riolino is the song that you need to add to your Roots Rock playlist for this week. I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. I'll check in with you again soon.
Hi, I'm Tom. Hey, I'm Gert. And this is our Vancouver.
Coming up, the dark secrets of Stanley Park and a new tour that tells all. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. Now, Stanley Park, it's largely regarded as one of the province's jewels. But the history of the park hides some uncomfortable truths, and that is the basis of a new tour that reveals the dark side of the land's use. And we caught up with a tour guide. Just watch.
This park was formed in 1888, and it was named after Canada's Lord Governor General at the time, Lord Stanley. In 1889, Lord Stanley stood in a clearing not so far from here and said these very inspiring words. He said, "I dedicate this park to the use and enjoyment of all peoples of all colors, creeds, and customs for all time," which is like super progressive and accepting, especially during those times. Now, of course, the land he was making this declaration on was the home to an Indigenous people that had been displaced because of the park. But I think that irony was probably lost on him. There's so much history that's taken part here, but it's also colonialism, because the main secret and the darkest secret is the displacement of the people that live here. The Coast Salish have lived on the inlet thousands of years, and one of the reasons they made this area their home is because of the water. And not only is the water fantastic resources for food, but it's also in a strategic location for travel and therefore trade. Shui Shui was the biggest trade hub in this area for hundreds, possibly thousands of years. And there were about 100,000 people living around the Burrard Inlet at one time. So some parts of the roads here in Stanley Park weave in kind of weird different directions, not just on the shoreline, and that's for a reason. The park and the city would use the roads as an excuse to displace the people that were living on this land. But the people on Brockton Point, well, they were of Coast Salish and mixed European heritage. So there was a better chance that they were able to read, write, or speak a European language. The people here on Shui Shui did not have that. They didn't have the money either. And to add insult to injury, the road builders didn't demolish their homes. They actually moved into them and made it their property. The general input from people and guests that come on this tour is that they're happy to be finally learning about this. I definitely see that there's more recognition and more willingness and eagerness to learn about what has happened on these lands and the people that live here.
Now, this Thanksgiving weekend, I hope you get to enjoy some food with the people most important to you, whether it's turkey, maybe a signature dish for your family where you grew up. Well, a celebration of those familiar foods was recently held at UBC. The Joy of Feeding Festival. It brought chefs together with their families and their friends to offer flavors that tasted like home. So I had a chance to speak to the organizer, Miru Dalwala, co-owner and chef at Vidges, and Regina Lee, chef and owner of Gaia Kitchen. We were talking on CBC Radio's On the Coast. Miru, why don't we start with you? What's the whole idea behind the Joy of Feeding?
So we're in our 7th year, and Joy of Feeding is not about people coming in to just taste delicious food, which is what a lot of our events are. Joy of Feeding is for you're bringing yourself to an event. You are bringing your personhood to this event. It's not about people pleasing you. It's about you participating in a little micro world where we, Vancouverites from all these different heritages, we get together to participate. We participate with our cultures through our food. And it is really important for me. I talk a lot about how I was born in India, raised in the U.S., I moved to Canada, and it's such a personal thing for me to get to know people from all over the world. And I say this all the time. So, like right now, I mean, Joy Feeding, we just happen to be very current every single year. So right now we have events happening in Iran, right? We've got the protests happening in Iran. We have those events happening in Ukraine. And so this Joy of Feeding, we have a chef from Iran, we have a chef from Ukraine. And when you go and you have this person offering you their food that they have made. So Anton, for example, from Ukraine is bringing his grandma and they're cooking a big fat, stew together. You take food from Anton and his grandmother from Kyiv, and then you eat that food and you smile back and tell him and grandma that it's delicious. The next time you feel like you're a part of Ukraine. Yeah. When you hear something about Ukraine in the news. So the Joy of Feeding is about feeling the world through food. And so Regina, she's here and, she's going to be cooking a Singaporean family dish. And so, a lot of people think, oh, Singapore, high-rise buildings, capitalism, money. We don't think about the depth of the culture behind Singapore or with Singapore. And so I was talking earlier to Jake, Jake, what is the word in a positive way for desperate? Like I am positively desperate, right? For us to meet one another, for us to really share and smile and participate through food and just feel this world in Vancouver at the farm. And so that's where I'm going to leave it and then let Regina talk more. But yes, I just get so positively, excitedly desperate for us to be together. Yes. And that's Joy of Feeding for me.
And we can do that now, again, outdoors, safely, again, and hopefully this beautiful weather is going to continue into the weekend as well. Regina, so Miru did a really nice introduction on that and sort of explaining these different flavors. Why is it important for you to be involved with the Joy of Feeding?
Well, it is for me. Food is, to me, a celebration of cultures. First of all, it's a celebration. It brings people together. This is why I cook. This is the way I see food. And so it also reminds me of my diverse cultures back in Singapore. We are multiracial. We could be eating Indian food for breakfast, Malay food for lunch and Chinese for dinner. And this is how I see the sharing of food being, having traveled for 20 years in 10 countries. Food is the main thing that binds me and opens me up to different cultures around the world. And so I think this is nothing better to celebrate this post-pandemic than to share our cultures this way.
Coming up, the newest Parks Canada Ranger will work for trees. Hi, welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Gloria Makarenko. It's always fun to follow dogs who have jobs. The newest employee of Parks Canada has 4 legs and is ready to leap into action to help people in need. Just watch.
Thank you.
I would say there's no typical call. Like every single one is different. So we're the dog team as a part of Banff National Park, but for Parks Canada as well. The most unique part is that we're the only one in Canada for the national parks. It's a pretty multifaceted role. We spend a lot of time training because there's so much work for us to do. We do a whole bunch of searching. We're looking for evidence for the law enforcement side of things. We're looking for people for law enforcement and for visitor safety and for resource conservation. Tracking is kind of the thing I see the most results from, tracking people, and then searching. A lot of things like searching for evidence and then human remains detection and then the avalanche search profile in winter. So it's a big job. We do and are available for anybody in Parks Canada across the country. Working with my best mate, he's awesome. He's super excited to do the job. He really wants to get out every day and get after it. So harnessing that and putting it into a constructive kind of way is what we try and do every day. He lives with me 24/7. We spend every moment of our lives together. I'm super lucky to work with him every day.
Good dog. Good boy.
Hey, thank you so much to CBC Alberta for that story. And here's another look at parks. This time, we go back in time through our CBC archives. Eve Savory brought us the story in 1992 about remote islands and what happens when they're discovered by mainlanders who love them too much.
Speeding through the misty beauty of the Broken Islands group, you could think yourself alone in the world. But 11 a.m. at Gibraltar Island, the Francis Barclay, known locally as the Greyhound of Barclay Sound, pulls in. 10 years ago, the islands were a local secret. But once they were labeled a national park, people came to check out why. In an urban world with a longing for wilderness, Canada is one of the few places that still has some. And tourists from around the world cannot get enough. To Europeans, this is wild isolation.
This park here, it's unbelievable that nobody's in here, you know. The rainforest, I mean, you couldn't believe it. Like in Europe, it would be overrun.
To Canadians, it's not isolation, it's a crowd.
I think it's important that they're really careful that they don't destroy what's left here.
The Park Service agrees. Just across the inlet in another part of the park, you need a reservation. This group has...
Number 3265.
Between 1986 and 1989, traffic on the West Coast Trail grew 56%. It leapt almost as much again in the following year alone. 300 people sometimes started the trail on one day. There was human waste and garbage behind every tree. Now, only 52 people can start the 6-day hike along Vancouver Island's west coast on any given day.
We're really going to have to face some hard questions of how many visitors are we adequately going to be able to accommodate, and how much land are we going to alienate for visitor facilities?
And how to follow a national park's first mandate, protecting the ecosystem. The projections show the pressure on Canada's parks will increase dramatically in the next decade. Inevitably, it seems, the days of unlimited access are coming to a close. Eve Savory, CBC News, in the Pacific Rim National Park.
When we bring you stories here at CBC Vancouver, we have award-winning photographers out capturing the images that say so much. Still images, they add a different level of context and a little bit more to the understanding of an event or an issue. So here are some of the latest from what happened this past week. And that's all for Our Vancouver for this week. I hope you can join me weekday afternoons on CBC Radio 1 for On the Coast. Bye-bye for now.